Curt Cignetti and Indiana football are 11-0 with just one game remaining. And at this point, you're a lock to make the college football playoff.
You are Locked On Hoosiers, your daily podcast on the Indiana Hoosiers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, and it is the Locked On Hoosiers podcast. I'm your man, Jacob Goins. I appreciate you being here, making this your first listen or your first watch every single day. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day, and also the #1 sports podcast network. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first ticket purchase. Well, thank you so much for being here, making Locked On Hoosiers your go-to spot for all things Indiana athletics. And later in the show, we'll talk some Indiana basketball, some clips from our live show yesterday in case you missed that, as the Hoosiers take down Incarnate Word, and a dicey game inside of Assembly Hall. Shout out to Indiana women's basketball as well for getting a big win over Florida State on Sunday afternoon. Plus, we're going to talk here in this segment about Indiana football. Quick hit on a wide receiver commit, the flip from Penn State. But at this point, right, I think all the numbers would say, all the experts would say, and I'm going to say it too, that Indiana is a pure 100% lock to make it to the college football playoff. And now you may say, well, yeah, isn't that kind of obvious? Why are we bringing this up? Why are we talking about it? Well, because you had the bye week, or you have the bye week here this week. You then go on the road and take on Purdue right in the regular season finale. And you're still well on your way to getting into the Big Ten championship game. And in a doomsday scenario, which I'll bring up here, what do you think would happen if Indiana were to lose to Purdue for whatever reason and lose to Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game? You go from 11-0 to then 11-2. And with all the chaos and things we've seen around college football, we're going to show you the AP poll coming up in just a moment as we await the new playoff rankings coming out tomorrow. With all the chaos and things, there would be people, I promise you there would be people that would try to make the argument that Indiana wouldn't deserve a spot at the table. And I think that's pretty ridiculous, especially with the expanded playoff. And so Indiana's a lock to make it to the playoffs, but you're not a lock to be a top 4 seed, and that's where things get a little bit interesting. I know that the AP poll is not the college football playoff ranking poll, but here's an idea for those of you watching on YouTube. You're looking at it right now. If you're on audio, I'll read you some of the things that we're kind of discussing here. Ohio State 1, Indiana 2, A&M still at 3 after their comeback win against South Carolina. Georgia moves up to 4. Bama's now, Ole Miss, is at 5. Texas Tech is 6. Oregon is at 7. Oklahoma jumps up to 8 after their win. Notre Dame's at 9, and Alabama is at 10. Again, the AP poll is not the college football playoff poll, but this at least gives us an idea of what's going on behind the Hoosiers. And that's where things get interesting. If you lose one or both of your last 2 games, then you're talking about being somewhere between 5 and 8, I would think, if you're Indiana. If you lose one, yeah, you probably lose your top 4 bid and your bye in the first round, especially if it's Purdue, right? If you lose to Purdue, then you probably will move out of those top 4 spots. I think, again, on the Big Ten championship game, I think a team should not be punished for playing in their conference title game, because other teams are talking about the exact same thing in the SEC and in the Big 12 and the ACC and things like that. Those teams are now coming up with arguments that are legitimate on why you should not be punished for losing your conference championship game. If you go on the road to lose to Purdue, yeah, you deserve to be knocked out of the top 4 and still be in the playoff, but then you start talking about either hosting or going to a college campus for a road game in round 1. But if you're undefeated in the regular season, if you're 12-0 like Indiana has the chance to be, you should still be a top 4 seed, even if you lose to the Ohio State Buckeyes. And so, again, the AP poll is a good idea of what the playoff rankings will look like tomorrow. And Indiana has every opportunity to take all the drama out and not worry about it. But where the drama is going to come in is after Purdue. It's the Big Ten title game. And for those of you who have watched or listened to this show, this channel, you know how I feel. You know where I stand. I think there's an argument to not compete or even compete at the highest level or give it all you've got in the Big Ten championship game if that gives you a better opportunity to compete in the college football playoff. But my argument today is Indiana shouldn't be punished for making that game and if you come up short against Ohio State. So the ESPN analytics are saying Indiana's got a 99% chance to make it. And at that point, you're hoping that you're a top 4 seed. Their experts are saying that Indiana will most likely play either Oregon or Ole Miss. If you remain at the 2 seed, you would then play the 7 seed in the quarterfinal round of the college football playoff. That, funny enough, puts you in the Cotton Bowl, which is actually on New Year's Eve on that Wednesday before everybody else would play on Thursday on New Year's Day. So keep that in mind as well. But Oregon rematch, or a game with Ole Miss could be kind of fascinating there from the SEC. So that's an idea of what's going on. Okay, so that's the college football playoff. Did want to mention this on today's show as well, that Indiana football over the weekend picked up a nice commitment, a flip from Penn State, a receiver who was committed to the Nittany Lions and then decommitted when James Franklin was fired, had already taken some visits to Indiana. The Hoosiers were around, right? And he knew, right, that Indiana wanted him if anything were to happen, and it did. And then he got back in communication. Indiana picked up the phone, and it was pretty much all said and done, and that was it. Lavar Keys, the wide receiver from Maryland, about 5'9", 165 pounds. He's a 3-star recruit in the class of 2026. He does come from Penn State, now committed to Indiana, joins a receiver class or a recruiting class for Indiana that now has 3 receivers in it for the class of 2026. And look, the size is not going to blow you away, but this guy's just speedy as all get out. I mean, he's super electric off the rip, off the snap. He's a great route runner. He's fast with the football in his hands, and he's just a playmaker. That's what Lavar Keys is. So that's a late addition to your 2026 class, one that you didn't really know that you were going to get until the Penn State stuff went down with James Franklin. And this is what you do. This is how you win recruiting, is you take advantage of other people's misfortunes, and that is a head coach getting fired, and Indiana jumps on top of it with a 3-star wide receiver, Lavar Keys. So wanted to throw that in there as well. We will talk basketball when we come back because Indiana had a dicey one at Assembly Hall on Sunday evening, but they take down Incarnate Word. We talk about that coming up next here on Locked On Hoosiers. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of a game or you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team is making that late push. So right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Head to FanDuel.com to sign up today and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. So I got my man Brian Smith, host of the Portal Podcast, with us here. Indiana basketball, I was going to say wins and dominates and blows out Incarnate Word, but then all of a sudden it came down to just survive and advance for the Indiana Hoosiers. They defeat Incarnate Word 69-61. First half dominance, second half, I don't know what happened. And Brian, the offense that dropped triple digits in 2 of the first 3 games and 90+ in the other game, the offense that was lighting it up from 3 and just having a bunch of fun, that offense just disappeared. It was nowhere to be found tonight inside of Assembly Hall.
Biggest play of the game is when Lavar got his second foul. They don't have enough playmakers for him not to be on the floor.
Yeah.
This is the reality of year 1 under Coach DeVries. When he's not on the court, it's not the same team, because his son, DeVries, while he's an incredible shooter and all that, he's not anywhere near the athlete. He's not a playmaker in the same sense. And while they got some other guys, when Lavar's on the court, it spreads the court. The ball moves more. There's more acrobatic acrobatic shots.
Mm-hmm.
The crowd really likes, like, there's something about him, IU, the Assembly Hall crowd, like when he shoots it, that place lights it. I don't know what it is. And when they got stagnant in the second half, they kind of just thought the game was over. And give credit to Incarnate Word, which for those who don't know, it's in San Antonio. It is it's a small school. I drove by it once by accident. It's like it is teeny tiny.
Yeah.
So it's so funny. But anyway, they just said, we don't care that you're Indiana basketball.
Yep.
We're going to keep playing. And Indiana goofed around.
Yeah.
The film review, I'm guessing, Jacob, will not be a fun one. It will not be a fun one.
No, and I don't understand why it looked so different compared to what we've seen the first 3 games. You bring up a good point about Lamar Wilkerson getting in foul trouble early. It absolutely took Indiana out of sorts, but at the time, I didn't think it was that big of a deal. I didn't think it was a big problem because Indiana clearly changed their offensive identity and they changed their game plan and they focused on getting buckets inside the lane. Alexis started with 4 straight dunks and Trent Sisley had a couple of dunks in there and Reed Bailey had a couple of alley-oop dunks. And I was like, okay, well, it may not be as sexy or flashy or as fun as knocking down 10 threes tonight, but maybe this will give Indiana the opportunity to work on your inside game because you're going to need it in some of these games coming up. And then the Hoosiers just went cold and they couldn't make the threes that they took. Believe they went, they had 24 of them tonight, 5 of 24 from downtown. We'll bring that up during likes. Yeah, that's not good. We'll bring that up during likes and dislikes coming up in just a little bit. But I thought it was going to be okay. And then the offense just went cold. It went stagnant. Incarnate Word started making shots. Defense was fine for the most part, I think, for Indiana. I mean, you held them to 19 in the first half, but 42 in the second half. That's a big difference. That's a tale of 2 halves if I've ever seen one. But yeah, I don't know. The ball movement wasn't good. The communication wasn't good. I don't know, man. It just seemed really weird. And I want to give Incarnate Word credit, but I don't think, Brian, they did anything crazy defensively that just shut Indiana down. Do you?
No, Indiana started looking at each other. It reminded me of a bad last place NBA game at the end of the season. And these guys are like, well, what bar are we going to afterwards? They had no interest in being there. Like Indiana's offense was just standing around. Yeah. And it was horrid. For about the 4 or 5 minute mark, I'm like, what are y'all doing? This is terrible. But DeVries hit a couple of shots, including that 3 in the corner. When he hit the 3 in the corner, that was pretty tough for Incarnate because that was a contested jumper on the move. I mean, that's an NBA play. And I was like, okay, you're probably going to hang on here, but may not deserve it in some ways. But they didn't. They were only 18 for 26 from the free throw line, under 70%. As good as this team is at shooting, DeVries missed 2 free throws at the end. I mean, like
crucial free throws.
They just couldn't throw it in the ocean. Like, I don't know. Then he turned around and hit the 2 shots. So there was no rhythm to IU hoops tonight in the second half. But the most important thing, what was it, Jacob? It was 14-12, 14-13, something like that. And then it turned around and it was like 28-14. Indiana won. If it wasn't for that run and about that 5-minute stretch, Word wins the game.
Yeah, I think 17-2 run, I think was the last official number on that. And yeah, I mean, so again, you go into halftime and you're up 35-19. You're like, all right, well, you didn't hit shots and Lamar Wilkerson was on the bench and all right, we'll come out and hit threes and everything will be fine, right? But that's what I've been telling people, and you have too on these live shows and even on our daily shows of Locked On Hoosiers, is there will be games where the Indiana offense does not make 10, 12, 15 shots from deep. And they didn't tonight. They made 4. And you see what the difference is for an Indiana squad that has scored 100 points this year and now just 69 points this year in this game tonight. You have to find ways to score without it being from behind the arc. And Indiana struggled to do that big time, I think.
The other thing that I took away, tonight it's bad, but I think long-term it's good. That 1-3-1 press, that trap or whatever, it's just used to slow you down. Indiana now knows they are not bad against that kind of defense. They're an atrocity to mankind. I mean, it was just so bad. They had nobody who wanted to dribble into the creases.
Yeah.
When Lamar's not, again, that defense does not work with him on the court because he shoots well from the wings And he's a guy that will take it to the rim. When he was out, Indiana didn't have its best creator in there. Now, I'm not saying they don't have other guys that can do it, like Enright does some things like that, and he creates, but he's not a shooter. Conaway can do it to a certain degree, but he was only 3 of 10 tonight. And then DeVries, not necessarily a dribbler. He's your guy you want for kickouts. But when Wilkerson's not on the court, I expect to see teams zone Indiana to death. But you're going to work on it now, too. You're going to have to, like in practice, once Wilkerson gets tired, they're going to tell him to go sit down, and we're going to work on zone offense.
Yeah, as you should. And I think that if there is a positive to come out of this, it's that right there, that this was game 4 of the year, your first real adversity, honestly, because of how the Marquette game came down the stretch. I mean, you had that game in control. So every good team has a game like this against a mid-major in your own house where they come in with, and I think the broadcast said it, with nothing to lose, right? That's exactly how Incarnate Word played tonight. And they get close and they make it dicey, but Indiana does win 69-61 to go to 4-0 on the season. Some of those final numbers and tallies for Indiana. Sam Alexis led you with 16 points, most of those coming in the first half. Of course, a lot of those off of dunks as well. He went 6 of 8 from the free throw line, Brian. Love to see Sam Alexis getting to the line. Wish Reed Bailey could kind of copy that and do the same. But Sam Alexis has 16. Tucker DeVries has 14. Wilkerson, or Sisley actually has 10. Wilkerson with 9. Reed Bailey with 7. And then some other guys in there as well. Enright had 4. And I want to talk about Conor Enright, man. He'll come up in likes and dislikes, but a guy played his tail off tonight and did some really good things and made some winning plays. I know offensively he's not your stone cold killer, but defensively, especially on one of the final shots for Incarnate Word, to force the air ball on the 3. Yep, that was the big one.
Yeah, he's a pretty savvy guy because, like, how many times have we said, whatever you do, don't foul the 3-point shooter?
Yeah.
And they foul the 3-point shooter. Drives me nuts. I'm surprised I haven't lost a television set to one of those plays in my lifetime. But he just comes close.
Yep.
The guy didn't make contact with him. You could not have really played it any better other than an absolute blocked shot. That's the only way. But he is a feisty little guy. I'll be curious to see what they do once everybody is healthy and they got a full rotation. But I think he's going to play more than I originally thought because of that, especially against teams that have pure knockdown shooters, which every Big Ten team, like Purdue, teams like that, Michigan State, you have to have on-ball pressure. And even a team like Michigan that's got bigs, you need to pressure the ball so they don't get easy passes to the post because Indiana's going to struggle, and now that's not going to go well anyway.
Yeah.
So you at least got to apply pressure or it's over. So he's got to roll. He does need to improve his confidence level in shooting. Even if it's just 1-3, he's got to knock down shots. Because, again, zone defense is going to be like a 4-letter word for Indiana fans because teams are going to play it until they can prove they can do something. I'm going to have nightmares about watching Indiana go against that. They did a little better as the game went on, but I'm surprised they didn't go back and forth with it more.
Yeah.
I don't know why they didn't, but then Indiana just started missing everything, even when they were wide open, it didn't matter.
Yeah.
That was also very odd.
Which hasn't happened yet this year.
No.
So lot of things going against Indiana tonight. Offense was not good. Defense, I think, was solid, and Indiana comes up with the win, 69-61. Drop your thoughts in the YouTube comments. We'll get to those on the other side. Plus, we do everybody's favorite segment of likes and dislikes. That's coming up next. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by Game Time. College football is here and college basketball is back, and I could not be more excited. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands, there's really just nothing like it. But let's be real. Actually getting tickets can feel like more of a battle than the game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping at checkout. That's why I use Game Time. It's the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. I pull up the Game Time app all the time for football and basketball games, and you can find amazing deals talking about some of your favorite games for as low as $25 a pop, all right? So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKED ONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. Thank you so much for being here. I'm your man, Jacob Goins. He is Brian Smith. Make sure you check him out on the Portal Podcast, part of our Locked On Podcast Network, where he posts shows every single day, talking recruiting, transfer portal, NIL, and all the fun topics around college football. And, of course, myself of Locked On Hoosiers. We do daily shows talking all things Indiana athletics. Indiana basketball takes down Incarnate Word 69-61. And, Brian, you know the drill. It's likes and dislikes time. And I will start with the guy we were just talking about, which is Conor Enright. I agree with the statement you made that I think he's going to play more minutes than I originally thought. I said at the start when he was a starter, and he was again tonight, that would probably not be the case later in the year. But if he continues to play good defense and can add on a few points here and there and dive for loose balls and be one of those vocal leaders, I think he will play more than I thought he would, and he very well could be a starter the rest of the way. So Conor Enright's my first like of the night. I think without him, you might lose this basketball game.
He was second tonight in minutes played with 34.
It's impressive.
If you'd have told me after I saw him the first game that he was going to be playing 34 minutes in game 4, I'd said, who got hurt? Because I wouldn't have believed you. I thought he was a 15-minute a game guy, but he has different roles than what I anticipated. And he plays very hard. So good for him. For me, for my first like, it's just Alexis. And he does what he does. He doesn't try to be complex.
Yeah.
I run to the rim. I dunk the basketball. You can't stop me. I'll take that. It's a nice stat line, 16-8. Give me that every day.
Yeah.
If you can give me 16-8, we're going to be real happy.
With the guy off the bench, Brian.
I know.
That's the backup.
I wonder against Michigan or somebody like that if they might change the lineup or something like that, or if there would be times they might do something and play him and Reed. I don't know, but
I think there needs to be something like that, though, especially when you're going up against the Purdues and Michigans and those teams in the Big Ten that have guys who are 6'8", 6'9", 7 feet tall. Like, you're going to have to do something, because Indiana was fine rebounding tonight. Final total there, you out-rebound them 42-29, where Incarnate Word actually was hammering you on the boards early. But you're going to have to run a two-big system at some point, I think.
We haven't seen it yet, but they haven't played a team that has a post player that, I'm not saying that they haven't played anybody that can play, but not a Big Ten level guy like you would see from Tom Izzo or something. So with that being noted, just pack that away, because I think he's probably advanced a little more than I thought he would. And they like throwing it up to him, and the timing's been pretty good. So the next thing for him and Bailey, this is my one dislike. Indiana doesn't have any form of shot blocking right now. And that is going to eventually lead to many a problem in the paint when games get inside of 4 minutes. I think that would probably be the biggest Achilles heel. And it's not one I think is real easily fixed, if at all, but just something to mention.
Yeah, a big dislike for me, and what seems to be a dislike for everybody, was the poor three-point shooting, because that is what has been the highlight for the first 3 games is, man, this team seems like they can't miss. They shoot 40, 50, 60% from downtown, and they've blown out everybody in the first 3 games. And so I at least liked the way that Indiana fought and won this game when they weren't hitting threes, but you can't have bad nights. And yeah, I consider 9 points from Wilkerson in 27 minutes a bad night because of what he can do as a whole. You can't afford to have a bad night from Wilkerson and DeVries and several other guys offensively. Those two are the ones that make you go. I liked Trent Sisley. I liked his efforts tonight. I liked his 10 points, 8 rebounds off the bench in 20 minutes. That's phenomenal for the freshman, who I think will continue to get more minutes. But you can't afford bad shooting all the way around, because Indiana, I don't know if they're built yet to outscore people if they're not knocking them down from deep.
They don't have the point guard that gets in the lane and is a natural distributor for that to happen. Again, the zone defense kind of proved your point there. But that's something they're going to have to work on, because teams are going to watch this tape and say, well, here is the blueprint.
Yep.
Pretty straightforward. And even when they went back to man, Indiana got kind of down on itself, and they just weren't as confident when they shot jumpers. A few of them were just blatantly wide open too. Got to knock down a few of those. There's just no way around it. I know Bob Knight said one time the most important thing a player can do is just put the ball in the bucket. It's that simple.
Yeah.
So I'll take Bob's word for that. I think he's onto something there. So
yeah,
but, this is you survived.
You did. You survived, for no doubt.
21% from behind the arc, and you survived. Like, usually you shoot like that, it's almost a guaranteed L. I mean, I don't care who you're playing. Like, teams that shoot 21% from behind the arc in this era, man, that's a rough way to roll. So probably going to shoot better in the next game, I'm assuming, just by rolling the basketball out.
But I mean, you're going to have one of these every, I don't know, you can't pinpoint how often it's going to happen, but with just shooting in general, it seems like every 4 or 5 games, a team has a bad shooting night. This one was at home, which I don't love, but you hope that it doesn't happen when you go to Lexington or when you open up Big Ten play or when you get into some of these close games. Like, you hope that it's not the case, but you have to be able to move the basketball. And DeVries has to be, Darian DeVries, the head coach, of course, has to be able to call plays and put his guys in positions to win and be successful when they're not making threes. And then Tucker finally started to kind of shoot his way out of it at the end. But that's what I want to see from Darian DeVries is coaching his guys and putting them in situations to be successful when they're not knocking down threes.
Yeah, I think they did a good job, all things considered, and they played hard at the end. The defense didn't lag because they weren't shooting. That might be the other light that I just now thought about that. Sometimes defense just goes in the toilet when you're not shooting well. And as you noted, Incarnate Word's offense improved. They were just making shots with guys having a hand in their face. Like, some of those shots were really tough. And they're all the shots the analytics tell you don't shoot that. And they hit like 5 in a row. Runners off the bank board, turnaround, turning shot, like everything.
Mid-range, yeah.
But that's how they were making their game go to another level. So they just kept shooting them. They weren't exactly lights out from behind the arc either. So this was kind of an odd game, to say the least. But Indiana survives. They learn. Just burn the tape. Let's move forward.
Yep, Indiana's got Lindenwood coming up this week. That is on Thursday night inside of Assembly Hall. You then have a 5-day break before Kansas State comes to town for your second P4 matchup of the year. Then you have Bethune-Cookman coming in on November 29th. That's a borderline tournament team, is Bethune-Cookman, before you travel on the road to Minnesota to open up Big Ten play. So you still got a couple of games, but you've got to really get this thing narrowed down and figure out what your rotations are going to be, figure out what your offensive schemes are going to be against certain defenses. And I think as long as the defensive effort is there, that's my final like, as we'll kind of wrap up this show tonight, is if the defense plays the way it did with the effort, one-on-one defense, going after loose balls, rebounding at a pretty high rate, if all of that stays consistent and stays constant, Indiana will be in every single game. It's when the defense, like you mentioned, it just goes to crap and you just start letting easy layups and dunks and open shooters for 3. When those things start to pile up, then you're in trouble. And eventually you'll shoot your way out of it. That's what this team's going to do, I think, is just shoot their way out of slumps with Wilkerson and DeVries and guys like that. So overall, though, you survived. It wasn't pretty. You've got Lindenwood coming up on Thursday, but Indiana's still undefeated as they take down Incarnate Word 69-61. Let me look through some of the more comments just to make sure if anybody said anything that we haven't said. Looks like everybody's pretty much, Kim says a puzzling game. I will agree with that. Very puzzling, and one that you thought was in control, and then it was like, oh, all right, well, now they're within 15. Oh, all right. Now it's single digits. Oh, crap. That's a 5-point game. We're in the under 4 timeout. And Indiana had to buckle down and actually win the thing. So, again, Indiana survives. You take down Incarnate Word 69-61. You remain undefeated on the season, and you look ahead to Lindenwood coming up on Thursday. He is Brian Smith, host of the Portal Podcast. Check him out. Same way you find Locked On Hoosiers, you can find him on the Portal Podcast as well. Make sure you subscribe to Locked On Hoosiers if you are, of course, live here on YouTube, watching back or listening back. Be sure you subscribe to us on YouTube as well, as we're over 7,000 and making a push for 8K, or you can listen to us on any of your audio podcasting platforms. So until then, Hoosier fans, stay safe, and we'll talk to you later.